So welcome yourselves to this new series on the channel. We're going to be doing something called Lewis's F1 Notebook, where we're going to be talking all about the Friday action, the Saturday action, and race days. We're going to be talking all about all the latest news in Formula One. So these videos will come at you as often as there is a need. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay tuned for the next set of content. So we're going to start off today talking about racing. Obviously, it's Formula One. We're talking about racing, but there is some off-track news which I need to get into. So, Christian Horner was obviously under investigation. We've done a couple of videos about that recently, and he was dismissed. The case was dismissed yesterday, but there's been some further news coming out today where a person in the Formula One media has published a tweet saying that they have received a Google Drive full of evidence against Christian Horner. Now, they are talking about getting it all authenticated before they talk on it and make a proper scene about it, but they have published this tweet. Her name is, I believe it's Jenna Fryer. I'm going to put the tweet on screen now so that you can read it. Now, obviously, being a case being dismissed doesn't ultimately mean innocence. So, for me, this evidence could be crucial in the next stages. Now, obviously, the complainant does have a right to appeal the dismissal of the case. So, if I put on screen now the Red Bull statement, which came out yesterday, this is what they had to say, and obviously, it doesn't really say that he's innocent. It doesn't say that he hasn't done anything wrong. It just says that the case has been dismissed. Now, a case can be dismissed for numerous different reasons. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more F1 Notebook stuff. And we're talking all about practice and qualifying and the races. So make sure you stick around to my channel for all the latest F1 news and talk around the Formula One weekend. Now, obviously, you've come here mainly for Formula One, for racing, for talk about practice. So let's get into that now. And through free practice one, it was obviously... it's one of the most unrepresentative sessions of the season here at Bahrain, because obviously the race is in the evening, the qualifying sessions in the evening. So free practice 1 and free practice 3 aren't really very representative for anything. Obviously, they provide the teams with data and where to go on setups and things like that. But ultimately, you aren't going to get the same lap times throughout free practice 1 and free practice 3 as you would if you was doing everything in the evening. So free practice 1 was led by Daniel Ricciardo. The Racing Bulls showed a lot of power in that first session. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean to say that they're going to be on the front row. It doesn't mean to say that they're going to be podiums. Now, obviously, if you saw my video yesterday where I've made a bit of a crazy prediction about Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's going to qualify in the top 5, and I think he may even get a podium. But ultimately, a lot could change, and looking at that prediction now, it is as crazy as I thought it was. So free practice 2 was then led by the two Mercedes drivers of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Now, Lewis Hamilton was 2/10 up the road with a 1:30.3. That lap time was quicker than his qualifying time from last season. So obviously they have taken a huge step forward, but have they turned up the engines too early? Because like Max Verstappen, 0.477 behind Lewis Hamilton. Now, Max Verstappen's had a few issues in practice 1 and practice 2. A lot of talk about his shifts, up shifts, down shifts, and I think most F1 fans, if you follow through practice and even sometimes into qualifying, you hear Max complain a lot about up shifts, down shifts throughout those sessions, but normally it gets rectified before qualifying in the race. Now, I'm trying not to get a bit delusional here. Obviously, I want to see Lewis Hamilton win his 8th title. I think there's a lot of people out there that do. And given that free practice 2 session, they're in a very, very good place. If I give you a rundown of the top 10, so it's Lewis Hamilton in P1 with a 1:30.3, George Russell in P2 with a 1:30.57, and then it's Fernando Alonso with a 1:30.6 because he's 2.5 tenths behind. Then it's Carlos Sainz, who's 4 tenths behind, so that's a 1:30.7. Piastri, 0.41 behind, so that's what, a 30.9 there or thereabouts. Then it's Max Verstappen, Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, 7.5 tenths down, and Sergio Perez the same, 7.5 tenths down. So, and all these times were set at similar time periods. Max Verstappen, especially, his laps were pretty much in tandem with Lewis Hamilton. Like, Hamilton would set his, and a couple of seconds later, Max's time would go on the board. So, obviously, it's looking quite tight, but the big preface to this is obviously these times are obviously subject to change. These teams could quite easily turn up their engines and lower the fuel loads. Now, we don't know fuel loads for Lewis, we don't know fuel loads for Max, we don't know engine modes or anything like that, so that's going to be interesting to find out. Now, I just want to say a little bit more on the Christian Horner thing. Now, for me, I always thought he should have been not dismissed from his role, but I thought he should have been suspended from his position during the investigation. It does seem as if he's being protected. Now, obviously, the case was dismissed, and that, like, hold my hands up, case has been dismissed, whatever. But if this evidence has now got out to the media, it's going to be very interesting to see. I'll have put the screenshots of the tweets and the statements on earlier in the video. So if you haven't already read them, go back and read them, because I think wording on stuff is very important. Now, obviously, I don't think Red Bull gave much transparency, so it's going to be interesting to see how Ford deal with it. Obviously, there's certain things you've got to keep private. You don't want the accuser to become public, because then you'll have the crazy fans of Formula One going after them, and I don't particularly think that's fair. Obviously, Horner, being the person he is, he gets this media treatment where he is going to get bashed for whatever happens. Now, for me, there's a lot. It's a big talking point, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But if this evidence gets authenticated, published, and people figure out what's gone off with Christian Horner and this alleged case, it's going to be very interesting to see how it's handled by the likes of Ford, by the likes of Red Bull. Now, Toto Wolff in a press conference earlier today said that, and Zach Brown as well, said that the FIA and Formula One need to say something, really, because there's not been a lot of transparency from Red Bull. The FIA and Formula One haven't really said much, and when you go back to the likes of Qatar, when Lewis walked across the track, he was bashed by the FIA and Formula One because he's a role model, and Christian Horner should be held in that same regard. Obviously not a 7-time world champion like Lewis Hamilton is. Well, 8-time world champion, let's be honest. But he's still a big face in the Formula One paddock, and it's very interesting to see that this case, now obviously it's an external case from Formula One, but it's linked to Formula One because of the team. But something needs to be said by the FIA and F1, and not just a basic generic statement like they put out a few weeks ago. So if you have enjoyed this first episode of the Lewis Everett Formula One Notebook, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share it to all your friends who are Formula One fans, and I'll catch you tomorrow at the end of qualifying when we go over the qualifying, the predictions I've made, and let's see, can Daniel Ricciardo put it into the top 5 for qualifying? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that Racing Bulls car, and I think we've got a bit more emphasis on tomorrow now. We've seen those times from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. So once again, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share it to all your friends, and I'll catch you in the next video. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula One and football weekend.